Hi, I'm the plant gals, but honestly, today you can call me the snake gals. And when I say the snake gals, I mean one snake, because one snake is better than all the rest. If you look at my camera roll when I was probably 12, 13, 14, you will find pictures of this snake and the snake only. I love my lizards. I forever will be a person that likes to collect and own lizards. I always have, but there's one exception to this, and it is a species of snake that I have always wanted, I finally have, and is the most underrated species of snake on the entire planet, and it is the only snake that I will probably ever own because I love him so much. The species of snake is the Kenyan Sand Boa. I don't know anything about the rest of the sand boas, and let me preface by saying I know about my snake and what works for my snake. I am not a snake expert. I don't own hundreds of snakes. I have owned my Kenyan Sand Boa for less than a year. This is not a care guide. Please do not use it as a care guide. And if for whatever reason this video inspires you to want a Kenyan Sand Boa, please don't get one. Or do get one, but do your research first. Do not get one because of me. Get one because you watched lots of other YouTube videos and you discovered that the Kenyan Sand Boa is the pet snake for you, okay? Slay. So, my Kenyan Sand Boa, his name is Macho Man. He is an absolute king. Something that I adore about Macho Man is his natural hunting behavior. I think that a lot of snakes kind of act the same. When I meet other people's snakes or go over to their houses or go to the reptile store, like, they're slithering around, but they don't necessarily show like a natural hunting behavior. They might be like all needy when they're hungry. But Macho Man makes me feel like when I take videos and pictures of him, like I'm filming a National Geographic documentary. By the way, there will be no pictures or videos of me feeding him in this video, just because I think some people find it upsetting and I don't want to upset anyone. Kenyan sand boas are sand boas. So they have eyes almost right on the top of their head, and they peek these eyes out from the top of their substrate. Mine lives in aspen bedding, but sand, they don't really live in sand. I'm not giving care tips, but you're not really supposed to keep them in sand. Do your research. They keep their eyes like above the substrate like this, and then they wait for something to come along, and then they strike so fast, so hard. They wrap themselves around it. It's so cool. I don't know any other snake that behaves like that in captivity that is that cool, other than other like sand boas and things that are like burrowing. But it is so freaking amazing. It is actually like my favorite part of the week when I get to film him and feed him. The thing that is so cool too is he actually does it all the time. So he usually, when he comes out at night, he'll start for the first like maybe like hour or two that he's awake, just like peeking his head above the substrate, and then eventually he'll come out and explore, which is really what I'm gonna say, like, important. These animals, a lot of people say, are boxes of dirt, and they are very boring. Mine is not boring at all. I am a night owl kind of naturally, so I'm usually awake when he comes out for at least a couple hours. He usually comes out around 7 or 8 p.m. when it starts to get dark where I live. And I always turn on the lights and his lights and everything so that I'm really like stimulating him to come out at nighttime. So once that kind of happens, he does start to come out and he explores like crazy. And this is something that I hear a lot. I've seen care videos and care tips on these snakes, and they say, oh, like, honestly, like, you don't really need things on the top of their enclosure. They don't really like to explore. Like, they're just gonna spend all their time under the substrate. That is not true. If you give them things to explore on and they feel comfortable and safe, they will explore, and he explores all night. His favorite thing he has is a cork tube or like a cork round. It's quite a small one because he's small. He goes up and down and through that all night. I find him way up high. He climbs all over his enclosure. But what I will say is that sand boas, hence their name, aren't like most snakes that live in trees or have experience climbing. So they don't really know how to hold on to you when you're handling them. It's kind of funny, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Another kind of feature of their personality and like their actual like wild behavior is that they also give live birth. So they don't lay eggs. It's very cool. I will never breed Macho Man. I don't have any plans to breed him, and he is purely a pet for me, but they don't lay eggs. They give live birth. So he was born a snake, which is so cool. I'm not handling him during this video because I like to focus when I handle him, because like I said, he doesn't hold on very well, and if I get too excited and I start moving my hands around, he might fall off of me. But aside from that, like I talked about, their size is a huge plus for me. So I would I like big animals. I have plans to own pretty big lizards. I actually like having a small snake, and it's for a few reasons. I'm not opposed to owning a large snake or any large reptile, like I just said, but I find that a lot of people don't want to come into the house of somebody who has a very large snake. And it is very nice to have a small one, and I mean, his setup was pretty cheap compared to if you're getting something huge. And I'm not really gonna have to upgrade his setup forever if I wanted to, but I will because I like to spoil my critters. And they're just really like compact, right? Like he's a small snake. He's maybe about like this. He is very small. His enclosure's quite small. So they're very like friendly if you have people coming into your house that are scared of snakes. You could say, hey, like this thing, I'm not even kidding, isn't long enough to wrap around your neck. Like he really isn't. Like he can maybe wrap around your wrist once. And that's that he doesn't wrap. So, well, unless you're a baby mouse, then he wraps around you pretty good. But that's like really amazing. And the female snakes, like I said, they really don't get much bigger than like 2.5 feet. So, I mean, unless you're getting like a real beefy mama, which does happen, right? Like there's some that are smaller than average, there's some that are bigger than average, that happens. But they're not big snakes. And I find that it's really amazing because I have a lot of friends who are very scared of reptiles, especially snakes for whatever reason. And I have gotten a lot of people who are scared of snakes to try handling Macho Man or just meet him. And it's been great. And I find like something amazing about the hobby is getting people to appreciate animals that they are terrified of or they otherwise wouldn't appreciate. And I find that Macho Man and Kenyan Sand Boas in general are a really great barrier for that because they're so small and they are so cute. Like, I think it's really hard to be scared of him. And that's something that I adore about them, and I've been really lucky to be able to show people how beautiful and friendly and nice reptiles can be. So, personality. I will say this, I don't expect my reptiles or really any of my pets to love me. I decided to own them. They did not decide to be owned. And it is up to them what they think of me. I do my best to work with all of my reptiles. Most of my reptiles are very handleable. Aside from my rescue, she's barely handleable by me, but I don't expect love from my pets. Like I said, I own them because I enjoy their species. I enjoy spending time with them no matter what they think of me. I enjoy looking at them and I enjoy seeing them grow and giving them the best possible care and captivity that I can. And I think that that's really important to understand if you do ever want to own reptiles. Reptiles are not like a dog. They're not loving. It's not that they're not loving. There are very species that are extremely loving, but they're different. And some may beg to come out of their enclosure, or it might seem like they're doing that. It's kind of hard to interpret if they're just rubbing up against the glass or if they want to come out. But I just like to stress that you should not be getting a reptile because you want an animal that will love you or provide love for you. I think it's more important that you love them and you provide the best life possible for them. And then I think under those conditions, that's actually typically when you do get a reptile that is more enjoying of your presence. So typically when I talk to people who have Kenyan Sand Boas, who've owned them, who've owned lots of them, who breed them, they're very mellow. I have never been scared that Macho Man would bite me. To be fair, I'm not really scared that any snake would bite me because like I would be responsible around them and kind of read their behavior. But Macho Man, he doesn't really care. Like if you're not a mouse, he's just like, oh, hey, what's up? They're not very striky at all. And like I said, there's always exceptions to this and to do your research and everything like that. But in general, they're very, very placid snakes. And they are pretty good eaters, I find, because of that. So like he is very good at recognizing when something is a mouse and when something is my hand. I always feed with tongs so that usually he associates like the color of the tongs with eating. I don't feed him with my hands or anything like that because then he would associate like my hand with food. So that's like really important for me to do. And then I also really violently shake around the mouse, and I don't violently shake around my hand in there because if I did that, he'd probably assume that my hand is a mouse. But also he's really small. His mouth is very small. Even if he did bite me, there's no way, I don't think, unless I got like an infection or something, that I could ever end up in the hospital or like even need stitches. Like he's tiny. The only reason that I would be scared of him biting me would be I would be worried about him because he is so small and I wouldn't want him to hurt himself on me, especially if I'd like pry him off or something. But I literally have never had to worry about that. It is something that happens. Owning snakes, especially if you start to own lots, you'll probably get bit by one. But I think being mindful of their general demeanor, what they're like, and what kind of signals they're sending to you goes a long way. But in general, super placid. I let all of my friends handle him. I obviously explain how to properly handle him and touch him and stuff like that. But most of my reptiles, even sometimes my hedgehog, I don't let people handle, and I don't worry about them biting. But he is just so easy, and I love it. And then yeah, like historically, they are actually like very, very good eaters. I find that most people don't have too many issues with them eating. Like any snake, they can kind of go off their food during different times of the year. Like, you know, mine doesn't really eat when he's shedding. And he also, like, some people say that like during the breeding seasons, they don't like to eat. I haven't found that so far, but I have owned him less than a year. So I have one breeding season under my belt, and it's currently underway, and he's eating good. But yeah, like a lot of snakes do go off food and are famous for going off food, like ball pythons, and they're not really like that aside from like environmental conditions that would make them want to go off food. So that's a little bit of like an anxiety reducer, and I find that most people who own them also say that they're pretty consistent in eating, and they don't have super fast metabolism, so if they do go off food, they're not starving like super quickly. The only important thing is that they don't super like to drink water, so a lot of the moisture they get is from the food they eat, so that would be probably like what I'm more concerned about if they went off food. But yeah, like it's not something that I have really had to worry about, except when I got him. It took him a little while to get adjusted and to eat consistently, but he was also less than a month old when I got him. And that's kind of like my experience and most people's experience. Like I said, every snake is going to be different. You might have one that is really, really fussy. I only feed frozen thawed to him, by the way. I really suggest that you only ever feed frozen thawed to your snake. Like I said, this is not a care video, but do your research on that. I don't promote feeding live in like 95% of cases. And so yeah, he gets little frozen mice. I thaw them in a mug, and then it goes into his belly. And it is so silly. Kenyan Sand Boas are extremely unique in that you can get them in cow print. Now, the regular Kenyan Sand Boas, I will be putting in lots of pictures, so expect pictures here, the whole screen down here, the whole shebang. So yes, my Kenyan Sand Boa is cow print. He has a white base and black spots, and he also has the cutest little beady black eyes. I love him. This morph is called the anery morph. So typical Kenyan Sand Boas have an orange base and brown spots. The anery morph takes out the reddy orange pigment from the Kenyan Sand Boas and makes it so they don't produce it, and that's when you get the white base, because there's no orange, no red, with black spots, because when you take, I guess, the orangey red out of brown, you get black. So I have a cow print Kenyan Sand Boa. Kenyan Sand Boas also come in a lot of other morphs. A lot of people think that they aren't a very popular snake, but they are, and they come in a lot of really cool colors. I like to be clear, I'm actually not really big on morphs. Any pet that I buy in the future, I honestly don't think I'll be seeking out a specific morph for the most part. When I got my lychee gecko, I didn't care. I just wanted lychee gecko. I don't care what morph my leopard gecko is. I don't care what morph my crested gecko is, especially because she's a rescue. Even my hedgehog, I wasn't seeking out a specific color. I just like owning specific animals. However, if something comes in cow print, I have to tell you. And Kenyan Sand Boas, it's like a misconception that they don't come in a lot of different morphs, because there's actually quite a few. This is going to be the part where I look off screen the most probably, because I'm going to list them for you. And I will start with the color morphs. So color morphs, as they sound, change the color of the snake. This took a lot of research to do because there is weirdly misinformation on this. So hopefully I'm correct, but we'll see. And then I'll first go through the color morphs, and I'll go through the pattern morphs, which obviously change the pattern of the snake. So the first color, it's not like a morph, is the normal. It's got an orange base, it's got darkish brown spots, and then next is my favorite, the anery. He's cow print, white base, black spots. Like I said, the gene, he doesn't produce red pigment. Also, like most other morphs, there are albinos, and then there are snows, which I don't really know the difference. But what I will say is that the snows show up pinker than albinos, so they have like a little bit of a pinker tinge to them. They kind of look a little bit naked, and it's really cute. There's also hypomelanistic, which is hypo is like low, like hypothermia, and melanistic, like melanin, is like darker pigment. So hypomelanistic is like low melanin. So they have less dark pigment. So they're kind of like a lighter, more pastel-y version of the original orange and like brown ones. They're just a little bit lighter. Then there's the melanistic, which is black. There are not a lot of these, I don't think, but yes, they're very cool. And then there is the nuclear, which I don't exactly know how this works, but essentially it's a deeper orange, so it's kind of the opposite of the anery, and it produces extra red pigment, and this creates a more red, like really vibrant red-orange base with darker black spots. I think there's other names for the nuclear. I don't know a lot about it, but that's what I'm telling you. And then there's the Dodoma, which it's the name of a place, I can't remember where, I think it's somewhere in Asia, and it is yellow, and it has like a much lighter base color, so it's like almost like a pale yellow base color. Picture here, hopefully. And then there are pattern morphs. There's the normal, which is all like splotchy, like a cow. Mine is a normal. He is, although he's also, I don't know if this is right, but I'm pretty sure his tag, he's also het paradox and het stripe, I believe. So stripe is our next morph, which is basically all the spots kind of morph together, and it creates a kind of line, not a very straight line, like but a line down the snake's back. It's not like when you see like perfect lines on snakes, it's not like that. It's like all the blotches morph together, and then there's just this long line down the back. Picture here. There's lots of stripes. They're very popular. There's also paradox. So paradox is really interesting to me. I really like this one. It's kind of almost like a calico effect. So some of the spots are lighter in color and some stay like the regular dark color, which is really unique. And yeah, it gives kind of like the calico effect. And then there's the splash. So this is like really irregular spots. Some are really big, some are really small, and it creates a very different look, which is neat. Now, the last category that I think is honestly the most important is I have listed pop culture appearances and things that Kenyan Sand Boas look like. So, number one, Alaskan bullworm. I won't show you a picture of him eating, but oh my gosh, you can look it up. When they open their mouths and they like eat around something, it's literally the Alaskan bullworm from SpongeBob. Like the beady black eyes, like everything about it is absolutely identical to the Alaskan bullworm from SpongeBob. Like I'm pretty sure that he was like featured in that. Secondary, so important right now, the dune worm. This is not the dune popcorn bucket. Do not sexualize your snake. I'm talking about the dune worm. It is a sandworm. It lives in the sand. I mean, he's not a worm, but he is a sand boa, and he's about the same size as a worm. In fact, there's probably bigger species of worm on Earth, I'm almost positive there are, than the size of my sand boa. So oftentimes we call him a little wormy. He's my little wormy man. The Beetlejuice snake, especially mine, because first of all, once again, comes out of the sand. Second of all, black and white. Need I say more? This snake is so prolific in pop culture, you don't even realize it. It's underneath your nose. The females are very sausage-like, and to be honest, the most noodly of the noodle snakes is my snake, because there really isn't a lot of difference between his head and his body. And people always call them like danger noodles and things like that. I truly own a noodle, because so many snakes, they have like a very defined head. No, it goes from tail all the way down to head. And honestly, the tail and the head really don't look that much different. They have some like rough scales on the tail, which is really cool. But other than that, that's like, they are a worm. And they fall into the category of all these beautiful pop culture worms. A caterpillar even, any given worm, is he even really a snake? I mean, no, not really. He doesn't look a whole lot like a snake. He's very placid. He burrows underground. Honestly, sometimes when people come into my house, they think I own an anthill, or like an ant farm, because he has, which is so cool. I will put in pictures. He tunnels through his enclosure and he leaves the tunnels behind, and he uses the same tunnels all the time. And I feel really bad when I have to clean out his enclosure because I have to destroy his little tunnels to like replace the substrate. I feel so bad, but it's also enrichment for him to make new tunnels. It's the Kenyan Sand Boa is the most underrated pet snake. Probably, at least for a long time, the only pet snake that I will own, and for good reason. He is the only pet snake I have ever really truly wanted. I have pictures of him in my camera roll, or the same species, going so far back. Cow print, friendly, small, pretty easy to care for, doesn't really go off food. Need I say more? He hides underneath the sand, and when a mouse comes by, he freaking launches out and attacks it and wraps around it and eats it. I swear, it feels like I am filming a National Geographic video. I love the Kenyan Sand Boa. Thank you for letting me take on a different personality today and be the snake gals. And when I say the snake gals, I mean the one snake that I own. I don't think I'll make many more videos on him because this is pretty much all I wanted to say about him. If you want videos on my other reptiles, I will talk about them and why I love them. I probably won't ever really do care videos, but if you want to see why I like the other species that I like and why I decided to own them, please let me know. You can like, if you really want, you can subscribe, and I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments, especially if you have a Kenyan Sand Boa, or if you think that there's a snake that is more underrated than the Kenyan Sand Boa. You're wrong, but I'd love to hear about it. Thank you for watching.